Welcome to Friday Farside, everyone. I'm Sheldon, and this week we're talking about humanity's first visit to an exoplanet. That is, a planet in another star system. So this will be about the simplest mission we could mount, which would be basically a probe that flies by an exoplanet. So kind of a straightforward prediction. There's really not a lot to say in terms of preamble. All I'll say is I did get very excited about interstellar travel looking at this one. So I got curious about when we would actually land on an exoplanet, which is a much more complicated mission, and then how might we spread life there, whether transporting ourselves or maybe a spacecraft that knows how to create life compatible with the planet, like an arc ship or something. Anyway, a lot of ideas came to mind. I didn't actually ask those questions of the Strategic Farsight website, but maybe that'll be an area to explore in the future. So before we get started, remember that this is all AI-generated content, so don't trust it completely or consume it while operating power tools. All right, guys, you're up.
Thanks, Sheldon. What you got, Biff?
A penny. Our first starship, a little shiny penny tossed into the infinite ocean of outer space.
Well, a penny with a camera and a laser transmitter. Welcome back, everybody, to Friday Farsight, the podcast where each week we unfold a prediction from Strategic Farsight, reverse engineering the origami of the future. This week's prediction: humanity launches its first interstellar probe. It flies past an exoplanet, snaps pictures, and beams them back to Earth. Target date, 2150, give or take 40 years.
Okay, 2150. I can handle the year. What I cannot handle is that the spacecraft is the size of something you could lose between two seat cushions.
Well, it is small, gram scale. Think of it as a wafer, maybe a centimeter across, with a sail attached. They've been calling it a star chip.
Exactly. Star chip. Something you'd be eating in front of the TV and find under the cushions years later.
The program is called Breakthrough Starshot. Yuri Milner, the Russian-Israeli tech billionaire, put up $100 million for it back in 2016, and he roped in Stephen Hawking and Mark Zuckerberg as co-founders. Hawking signed on the year before he died. It was kind of his parting challenge to humanity.
Oof. The last thing Stephen Hawking did on Earth, basically, was try to get us off of it.
Pretty much. And the wild thing is, when Starshot was announced, the serious physicists who looked at the proposal didn't laugh. They started arguing about engineering, because nothing about it breaks known physics. No warp drive, no wormholes, just lasers and a really, really small boat with a really, really big sail.
Okay, sorry I made fun of the name. Walk me through it, because in my head, a starship looks like the Enterprise, or what they call a generation ship, a huge habitat that transports generations of humans to another star system. And you're telling me the real thing is a tortilla chip on a kite?
Pretty much, at least for humanity's first visit to another star. So here's the logic. To get to another star in a human-ish time frame, you need to go really fast. We're talking 10 to 25% the speed of light. Our fastest spacecraft today, Voyager 1, is doing about 17 kilometers a second. It's been in flight since 1977. It's now outside the solar system. And at that speed, it would take 70,000 years to get to Proxima Centauri.
70,000?
That's about 10 times the span of human recorded history.
Yeah, no, that exceeds my attention span. And Proxima is the closest?
The closest, 4.24 light years. So if you switch on a flashlight there tonight, we see it in 2030. It's a small red dwarf part of the Alpha Centauri system, and it has at least one rocky planet, Proxima b, sitting in the habitable zone. So when we talk about the target, that's the bullseye.
Okay, nearest neighbor, maybe habitable planet, and we'd still need a completely new kind of propulsion to get there in a human lifetime.
Correct. Voyager was slung out of the solar system using gravity assists, swinging past Jupiter to steal some of its orbital momentum. Fantastic trick, but it maxes out. You can't gravity assist your way to 20% light speed.
So what do?
You make the spacecraft as light as possible. Mass is the enemy.
Tiny.
And then here's the trick. You don't put the engine on it. The engine stays home.
Wait. The engine stays home?
This is my favorite part. The engine is a ground-based laser array, 50 to 70 gigawatts of optical power. That's roughly the output of 50 nuclear reactors, all pointed at the sky. You fire the laser at the light sail for a few minutes, and in those few minutes, the probe accelerates from 0 to a fifth of light speed.
Get out. A few minutes?
A few minutes. 60,000 Gs of acceleration.
60,000? I mean, a fighter pilot blacks out at what, 9, 10?
Right, and that's with a G-suit and every muscle clenched. 60,000 Gs is, a category error. A human at 60,000 Gs is not a human. A human at 60,000 Gs is wallpaper.
Wallpaper. Noted. I am not signing up for this flight.
Nobody is. This is uncrewed, and it'll stay uncrewed. The probe has to be tough enough to survive what would liquefy a person, and small enough to be whipped to interstellar speeds by a flashlight.
A flashlight that packs a punch.
Actually, that deserves a second, because it's called a phased array laser, which people hear and kind of glaze over.
Phased array laser.
Stay with me. Instead of one giant lens, you build a grid, potentially kilometers across, of thousands of smaller emitters. Then you synchronize their light waves electronically, so the individual beams add up to one coherent beam. Same principle as a phased array radar. No moving parts, just computational alignment.
So the whole huge laser is really like an orchestra of smaller ones all playing the same note at the same millisecond.
Nice image, yes. And Philip Lubin, the UC Santa Barbara physicist who's one of the serious advisors on Starshot, he says it would be a laser visible from space, like you'd see it from orbit.
Okay, the laser is big, a mega project like the Great Wall of China. That is raising some eyebrows for me.
What do you mean?
I mean, a laser that can push a tortilla chip to a fifth of light speed? Can that same laser also, say, ruin someone's day?
Oh, yeah. That's the dual-use problem. In principle, yes. A 50 gigawatt phased array laser is, it would be the most powerful steerable energy weapon any civilization had ever built. Pointed at the sky, it pushes our ambassador to the stars. Pointed at a satellite, the satellite is gone in a millisecond. Pointed at the ground, it's biblical.
So part of this prediction is that we all agree, as a civilization, to build the biggest laser in history and only ever aim it at the nice things?
Pretty much. Martin Rees, the astronomer royal in the UK, has said the engineering challenges of Starshot are actually more tractable than the political challenges. Keeping a project coherent across multiple generations of scientists and politicians is harder than inventing the tech.
What about the sail? Something to which that phased gigawatt melt beam, to which that kind of energy is like a sea breeze. That sounds hard to me.
One of the hardest parts, but clear in terms of the engineering challenge. The light sail is a beast for sure. It has to be thinner than plastic wrap, tougher than titanium, reflective enough to ride the laser without vaporizing, and light enough to be shoved around by photons. That material doesn't exist. They think it'll require metamaterials.
Metamaterials, as in quasi-realities, fuzzy logic, pseudoscience?
So normally, a material's properties come from its chemistry. Gold is yellow because of how electrons jiggle around gold atoms. Water is wet because of hydrogen bonds. Metamaterials are different. For the sail, you build structures smaller than the wavelength of light from the laser, arranged in a specific pattern, and the pattern itself gives you properties the raw chemistry doesn't have.
Like what?
Like negative refractive index, bending light backwards. Think of a blue morpho butterfly. That electric blue isn't pigment. It's microscopic ridges on the wing that scatter blue light and cancel everything else. Metamaterials are that, on purpose, engineered molecule by molecule for whatever property you want.
So we need basically a butterfly wing that can surf a nuclear-scale laser without melting.
Without melting, without tearing, without flapping, and able to shed heat fast enough not to vaporize in the 5 minutes of acceleration.
Got it. Okay, We invent the sail, we build the space laser, we put our little star chip in the sky, off it goes. Then what?
Then, 20 to 30 years of nothing. The probe can't steer. The trajectory is locked in during those first few minutes of laser push. After that, it's free fall, in the dark, for decades.
That is so lonely.
And dangerous. At 20% light speed, a grain of interstellar dust hits the probe with the kinetic energy of a rifle bullet.
Wait, you can get killed by dust?
Absolutely. Robert Zubrin, the Mars Society guy,
The let's go to Mars yesterday guy?
that guy, he's been publicly skeptical for years. He says a light sail at 0.2 C would just get shredded by interstellar dust, which is why the plan is not to send one probe, it's to send hundreds, maybe thousands.
Oh man, so it's a swarm.
A swarm. Kelvin Long, who founded the Initiative for Interstellar Studies in London, says you'd want to send, quote, not one, but hundreds or thousands of probes, accounting for attrition from interstellar dust, equipment failures, and the sheer difficulty of hitting a planet from 4 light years away while moving at 0.2 C. Attrition is baked in. The prediction isn't that we build the world's greatest spacecraft. It's that we build a fleet of them, cheap enough to lose most, and hope a handful of survivors happen to fly close enough to snap a picture.
Wow. I had the whole Hollywood version in my head, you know? One ship, one crew, one mission. And the real answer is, it's more like a dandelion. You blow on it, and you hope a few seeds find fertile ground.
That's a lovely image. A dandelion launched at a star.
And the wind, in this case, is a 50-gigawatt laser.
A cosmic force for a cosmic event.
Life reaching out into the void.
Right. Life reaching out any way it can.
Okay, so let's say some of the seeds make it. What happens when they get there?
The encounter is breathtakingly brief. At 0.2 C, the flyby of the Proxima Centauri system takes hours. Les Johnson, NASA physicist, he says, imagine trying to photograph a specific pebble while driving past it at 60 million meters per second. Everything has to work the first time.
60 million meters per second? I can't hold that in my head. A century of work for a few hours of pictures.
A few hours. And then the probe has to transmit those pictures home with a 1-watt laser across 4 light years.
A 1-watt laser? Like a laser pointer?
Roughly. Peter Worden, who used to run NASA Ames and now directs Breakthrough Starshot, says that 1-watt laser would look like a bright star to Earth-based receivers if it's aimed with nanoradian precision.
And the probe has to aim it 4 years ahead at where Earth will be.
Basically, the signal takes more than 4 years to crawl back. So the probe, during its brief little window of consciousness, has to know its own trajectory, know Earth's trajectory, do the math, and point the beam at where our receiver dish is going to be years from now.
Okay, I'm going to admit it, that is spine-tingling. This moment when the little thing, after years flying through nothingness, destined for an eternity of the same, an eternity of receding into nothingness, this moment when it phones home, it wakes up for the briefest instant to contact us, its creators.
There's something tender about it. A tiny machine, alone in the dark, calmly doing the math to find its parents. It's kind of a little heartbreaking, you know? And lovely.
And yet, Betty, is this ever going to happen? Because $100 billion, maybe more, over a century, in a world with, pick your favorite crisis, why does anyone sign the check?
Great question. There's a real pushback here. Ian Crawford, a planetary scientist at Birkbeck in London, points out that history shows multi-generational megaprojects rarely sustain funding unless they give continuous returns or they're fighting some existential threat.
And this doesn't. You spend $100 billion and the return is a single flyby a century from now.
Right. And Roger Lanius, an aerospace historian, adds a caution I think really matters. He says revolutionary projects typically take 2 to 3 times longer than the initial estimate. The James Webb Space Telescope, comparison case, took 30 years from concept to launch.
And James Webb was 1 generation. This is like 5.
Right. And here's another one. By the time the probe arrives, what's the chance we already know what's there? Ground-based and space-based telescopes are getting better every decade.
So we might scoop ourselves. By the 2100s, we've got, what, huge space telescopes that can image exoplanet surfaces?
Probably. Direct imaging from something like the descendants of the Habitable Worlds Observatory, NASA's proposed flagship mission for the 2040s. We may already know by then whether Proxima b has an atmosphere, oceans, seasonal color changes, maybe even biosignatures, meaning chemical fingerprints in the atmosphere that suggest life.
So why spend a century building a flyby camera if the telescopes already answered the question?
Sarah Seeger at MIT pushes back on that. She's one of the most prominent exoplanet researchers alive. She says there's no substitute for in situ data. Even a blurry close-up tells you more than decades of remote observation. The way I think about it, it's the difference between studying someone from 100 miles away with a telephoto lens and shaking their hand for 5 seconds. The 5 seconds wins. At Proxima b, you see texture. You see actual light reflecting off actual rock. It becomes a place, not a blob of pixels.
Okay, I actually like that. But isn't that the cavalry problem? Like the British kept investing in cavalry well into the 1910s because, we've always had horses. And then the machine gun showed up and 1,000 years of cavalry tradition was obsolete in an afternoon.
Sure, fair worry. But the other version of this story is the cathedral. The cathedral at Chartres took a century to build. The one at Cologne took 632 years.
632?
632. Interrupted by the Reformation, by wars, by plague, by a whole change of religious sensibility. And still, it got finished. Because each generation accepted the gift of the last one and passed it forward.
Cathedral versus cavalry. That's actually a pretty good fork in the road for the whole prediction. Is our Starship Cathedral going to be a breathtaking monument? Or is it like the last saber in the stable?
I think the honest answer is we don't know. But I want to push back on the framing.
Here we go. College debate mode.
My opponent is treating this as an economic decision. It isn't, really. Mae Jemison, the first Black woman in space, she now leads a project called 100-Year Starship. And she says interstellar missions require a fundamentally different mindset. The people who launch them will not be the people who receive the data. That isn't a bug. That's the point.
Boom. Context shifted. Opponents' notes invalidated. They don't even get the point, which is, wait, don't tell me.
The prediction isn't really about technology. It's about whether humanity can think past our own lifetimes, past election cycles, past quarterly earnings. A 100-year project is a referendum on civilizational maturity.
Okay, let me sit with that, because that's actually kind of staggering. You're saying the probe is not really the point.
It's one point.
But the other point is the kind of species that builds the probe. A species that agrees to fund something nobody alive will see finished.
Exactly. Freeman Dyson said something late in his life that I keep thinking about. He said, interstellar travel is difficult but not impossible. It requires patience, resources, and will, which are commodities that vary in human civilization, but never disappear entirely.
Patience, resources, and will. Items you don't see on the supplies list for Lewis and Clark, or the Apollo missions, or the COVID vaccine effort, but essential to all three.
Right.
I see what Dyson is getting at. The people you'd need to recruit for Starshot in the 2050s, they're not the ones on cable news. They're the ones quietly working on materials science in some lab in Shenzhen or Pasadena. The ones who picked a career they know they won't finish.
And this is why I keep coming back to Jill Tarter's line. She was the director of the SETI Institute for decades. Jodie Foster's character in Contact was based on her.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fun fact I'm going to use at a cookout.
Tarter said the first images of another world orbiting another star, taken by a machine we built and sent there, that will be the moment humanity becomes an interstellar species. Not in body yet, but in reach and in spirit.
In reach and in spirit.
And I think that's the thing that gets under-discussed. By the 2150s, nobody will have set foot in a starship, but we will have extended our senses across 4 light years. Our eyes will be there, even if we aren't.
And that is the first time anything human-made has done that.
The first time.
New question. What happens to the probes after the flyby? Am I right that they just drift forever into the void?
You mean when they're done taking pictures?
Yeah, they can't slow down, right? They just keep going.
They keep going, forever or close to it. Thousands of starships silently scattering into the Milky Way at a fifth of light speed, carrying Earth's fingerprints into deep time. They'll outlast the pyramids by a factor of millions. Depending on the trajectory, they'll probably outlast the sun.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So the Voyager Golden Record, a phonograph record with instructions on how to play it, designed to last 1 billion years, was a gesture, a bottle in the ocean. This is a diaspora.
A diaspora. I like that.
Anybody out there scanning the sky could, in principle, find one.
In principle, which is a whole other episode. What does it mean that we've been broadcasting radio for a century and now we'll be literally throwing small reflective objects into the galactic common? We're not just waving anymore, we're emitting pieces of ourselves.
Jeez. Okay. And there's a flip side to all this, too. You spend a century building a 50-gigawatt laser, a network of telescopes, a supply chain for metamaterials, a culture of people who can cooperate across generations. A lot of that is side effect.
Oh, big time. Apollo gets credited with Tang and freeze-dried food, which is cute, but the real Apollo dividends were the integrated circuit industry and the discipline of systems engineering, things that literally built the modern world. Starship's side effects would dwarf that.
Like what?
Mass-produced metamaterials, atomic-scale manufacturing, phased-array optics, closed-loop autonomous systems for decade-long operation, laser power beaming, which, by the way, could be used to push spacecraft around our own solar system or to send clean energy from orbit down to Earth, planetary-scale computation for aiming the array.
So even if the probe fails,
the infrastructure stays, and we are a different civilization for having built it. The mission might never reach Proxima and still transform Earth.
So, and this comes back to a thing I was circling before. I think the probe is a mirror.
What do you mean?
I mean, we spend a century building a camera to take a picture of another world. And in doing that, the thing we're really going to photograph is ourselves. What we became by trying, whether we could cooperate, whether we stayed focused, whether the laser was ever used for something other than pushing the sail.
Oh, that's good. A mirror, not a camera.
It's like the prediction isn't really about Proxima Centauri. It's about us.
I think that's right. And I think that's why this one got to me so much, honestly. Most predictions we cover are about a technology. This one is about a posture, a stance toward the future.
Okay, last thing. Imagine it's 2147. I'm 100 and however old, in my rocking chair, probably still copy editing these podcasts. The probe has been flying for 30 years. We've just learned the signal is about to arrive. What happens in the cultural moment?
I think about this a lot. The world will have had 30 years of anticipation. kids will have grown up with the launch as legend. The scientists who designed the instrument will all be dead. Their grandchildren, maybe great-grandchildren, will be at the controls.
Waiting for a photon.
Waiting for a photon. And when it arrives, it won't be a sharp, beautiful picture. It'll be blurry, maybe a few pixels, maybe just a spectrum, but those pixels will be, for the first time in history, the direct imprint of another world on human technology.
And if the pixels show something like an ocean or a green continent or, the telltale signs of photosynthesis?
Then the conversation changes, instantly. We can't respond, we can't visit, we can't help if there's trouble, but we will know. We will know we're not alone in the galactic backyard.
That's the thing that gives me chills, because it's like the most important information humanity could receive and the least actionable. We just have to sit with it.
The universe changes in an instant, and all we can do is observe. No next step.
A mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam.
Sagan, the pale blue dot.
And this would be the reverse of that. Sagan had Voyager turn around and photograph Earth as a pixel. This mission is us gazing straight ahead 4 light years into space, making another world large instead of our world small.
A different kind of wonder.
All right, Friday Farsight listeners, homework.
Next time you're outside at night, find Alpha Centauri, one of the brightest stars in the southern sky. Pretty easy to spot. Imagine a kite the size of a human parachute being whipped toward it by a laser the size of a city. Imagine that kite sending you back a photo 100 years from now. And ask yourself, is this a picture you would pay for?
And maybe that's how we can decide if this is a prediction we can believe in. All right, everyone, that's our episode. For the full write-up, head over to the Strategic Farsight website. They've got the whole prediction, all the sources, all the wonderful details we couldn't fit in.
And come back next week because we will be doing a flyby of another slice of tomorrow.
Thanks for listening, everybody.